one of I think the catalyst, one of the main catalysts in the West that brought about the next level of development, which is orange, which brought in the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, science, capitalism, individualism, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all these things, very orange developments, the equal rights of all people, the abolishment of slavery, lots of things happen here. But what really gave rise to it is its nascent was basically the plagues that swept through the Black Death in Europe that came in different ways, but according to who you read, they wiped out maybe a third, a half, or more than a half of the population of Europe. And during these huge crises, the old answers weren't working. The priest and the relics and the holy places and the prayers and all that didn't do anything. The people just kept dying. And there wasn't a divine, magical, miraculous intervention that cured it. It just, you know, and in fact, as they look back, it was they thought that cats were consorts of the devil, and so they're wiping out the feline population, which gave rise to a much big rodent population who would carry the fleas that carried the bubonic plague, so on and so forth. So at this point, we did the kind of Sergeant Friday turn, just the facts, ma'am. Okay, it was no longer the mythic stories of the virgin birth and God and miracles and blah blah blah. It was just science and facts, which gave rise to modernity. And depending where you're at, either you go, well, that was great, or God, what a mistake that was. And the truth is, it was probably a mixture of both. But the United States, the first modern democracy, was an achievement of orange. So many things have come out of the scientific worldview, the technology that we're using, the internet today, the ability to fly all over the planet. I read recently that the introduction of antibiotics has increased the average lifespan in the Western world by 20 years. I mean, that is just overwhelmingly powerful. I mean, how much more can you accomplish as a human being if you have an average 20 years more tacked onto your life? It just changes the whole story. That's all orange. Are there some problems with orange? You bet. Just unrestricted capitalism, and we're just going through this huge economic meltdown in our country, and if not the world right now, because of unregulated capitalism, which can become very pathological and devour itself. But would be example, oh, there's a great market for chopsticks in Japan, therefore let's cut down the rainforest. Something like that. Another one of the problems of orange is that there's winners and losers. If you're smart and you're educated and you work hard and you learn how to play the game, you get the goodies. You get the 6, 7 houses, you get to fly all over the world, you get the great schools for your kids and health care and Social Security and all this stuff. And if you're poor and stupid, you don't deserve it. So there's winners and losers. And a lot of our problems of increasing poverty and despair in our country and in third world nations are not really fixable by that mindset. Now we're going to need a lot of the technology developed by Orange to actually achieve some kind of resolution of those problems, but the moral resolution of problems won't happen at Orange, which gives rise to the next stage, which is green, which came onto the scene in a powerful way, a way that's sort of tipping the culture in interesting and powerful ways that we're still resonating from about 50 years ago. Let's say the late 50s, the early 60s, and it gave rise to the civil rights movement. Some of them, I mean, the really great things that came out of green, the environmental movement, women's rights, animals' rights, gay rights, everybody's rights, okay? It is a very compassionate level of development. It's multicultural. Not as remember we said that blue was second person. Well, at Orange, you can start taking third person perspectives. You can look at things objectively outside yourself and realize there's more opinions, perspectives other than your own. Although yours is probably right, you can still start to see it through others' eyes. At green, everybody's perspective is equally honored, because and it's a high level of moral development. However, it do have some problems. First of all, it's basic. Often at green, there is a rejection of orange because orange is seen as the enemy. and modernity is seen as the enemy. And one thing that green don't realize is that it was all the creations of an inventiveness and skillfulness of orange that allowed them to develop into green, which is our ability to travel, our ability to live a lot longer, our ability to read books and see movies and all these things that have brought in the music and recording records and Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles and Bob Dylan. None of that would happen without all the inventiveness of orange. So, and the problem is they say that when green constantly attacks orange, it's usually blue that wins. So we need to account for that. So one of the problems that develop with green, even though it is a highly developed level of moral development, it's pretty ineffective, because often green no longer can make moral choices. In other words, if all opinions and beliefs are equally to be honored, who can say what's better? So it kind of becomes narcissistic. You know, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, it's all good, right? And it's not true. There are levels of moral development that are obvious. You think about it, that are higher than others. You'd say, you know, a meth-crazed biker who is raping and, you know, killing people is on a much lower level than, say, a Mother Teresa or somebody of that kind of compassion and service. So that all kind of breaks down at green. It kind of becomes a swamp. One of the things that green doesn't like is the whole idea of developmental hierarchies, for example. It's a high level of moral development that denies moral development. Because to green, hierarchy means oppression. So if you're saying, oh, we're smarter than, you know, more developed than these primitive tribal peoples and stuff like that, that's not cool. So, well, let's just flatten everything and say everything's equal. So you begin to lose the capacity to make meta judgments about what's better, what's not, what's more skillful, what's less skillful, and it kind of breaks down. And because you often reject modernity and rationality, it becomes kind of mushy. You know, there's kind of a popular thing about green, just be here now, don't think, the mind is the enemy, rationality is bad. So they never stop thinking, they just stop thinking well. And green often doesn't see that recognize there's a higher level of development above green, so it goes back to a more primitive level. Since modernity really sucks, and blue fundamentalism, religious stuff really sucks, so the answer must be to return to our native, primitive, Stone Age, Neo-Paleolithic past. And that's where green often goes, and that's the part of the attraction to sweat lodges and vision quests and these ancestral wisdom things, which are not bad. They're great to bring back into our culture, but that's one of the turns of green. So, so that's where we're at up to this point. And after that, Claire Graves said he started to notice something that was extraordinary that happened after green. And he characterized all these colors from beige up to green as being first tier. Okay? And he says after that something new emerges, which he called second tier or integral consciousness.